One.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Recommended action that the Board of Education leaves executive session and returns to the work session meeting at 7:54 p.m.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the agenda.
So moved. Second.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. All right, we will now begin the work session portion of our meeting. We're going to start our first item up for work session is the future facilities schematic design presentation. We have our architects from KG&D here, but I will turn it over to Superintendent Walker.
No, thank you, Sarah. I think you just said it. You know, of all the exciting things happening in the district, at or near the top of, I think everybody's list is the work of the future facilities project. And happy to introduce Walt Housen from KG&D and Kevin Sawyer from Triton Construction, who are going to give us an overview of the work over the past few weeks and where we're headed. Gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. Great to see everybody. So this is really more of an update than presentation. Just wanted to share what's been happening since the positive referendum, and I can assure you a lot has been going on. So just the image on the cover is really, it's not a proposed design. Really just wanted to share some of the, it shows you what we've been up to. We've made three-dimensional computer models of all the buildings. It's a little bit more than a model shop toy. This is actually how we make construction documents. So it allows us to plan the spaces, but very soon we'll start to see some visualization. So we can literally have 3D walkthroughs and rendering. So that's just one of many things that have been going on behind the scenes. So can we go to the next slide? Before we talk about the future facilities capital project, just want to give a quick update on the stormwater improvements project. We received bids earlier this month. Happy to report we have two apparent low bidders that are very close in numbers. We feel very good about the quality of the results. Together with Triton led some scope review meetings this week. That's where we really debrief contractors, make sure they understand the project requirements. And we're pleased to say that we will be coming to the board with a recommendation to award shortly, and we expect to start construction this summer. So very exciting news. On storm, as exciting as stormwater can be, that's where we are. So the future facilities capital project is currently headed into partition of three projects. So there's the district-wide improvements to all schools. So that includes infrastructure as well as the alterations that we've talked about to improve the academic space or the spaces within the buildings. There is a separate athletic facility safety and security project. So that is primarily Spencer Field. It includes some work at PVC and some safety and security components in each building, A, because it's a priority, but B, it also allows the field work to be aidable if they're packaged together. And then a roofing replacements project. So next slide, please. So we've started meetings. We've had meetings at all buildings with stakeholders at the building level to review the project and develop detailed layouts. So we're not ready tonight to present those. There's an iteration process where we're going to go back and meet with everybody and show layouts. But the schematic design is really focused on getting the plan arrangements correct so that we've satisfied all the program requirements. And currently we're exploring some options and figuring out the best way to lay the building. So there will be some exciting presentations coming up shortly, but for now you just need to hold your breath. The big picture on the district-wide capital improvements project is we are targeting submission to SED in the fall of 2023. So Kevin can start to work on the implementation phase of that, and that will allow us to get into construction in 24. Kevin can talk about that in a minute. Maybe we go to the next project. So the athletic safety and security, again, this is primarily Spencer Field. Big picture update here is we have had stakeholder meetings. The design challenge is currently configuring the field in and about its current location to minimize rock disruption. So that's kind of been our big challenge in terms of layout. And our plan is to submit this project to SED over the summer so that we have approval sometime in the fall and then give ourselves as much opportunity for schedule moving forward. And roofing replacements. I think this is probably only second to stormwater and excitement, but the good news is we have accelerated this portion of the design. We are planning to submit this project to SED within the week, and it will give us an option. If we can get that to SED, Within a week, we can potentially get into third-party review, which will end at the end of this month, by the way. If you have any chance to push back on that, we'd appreciate it. Which will give us a chance potentially to bid this work for start of the summer of 2023. So very, again, as exciting as roofing can get, that's where we are. So Kevin, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what's happened in terms of cost control today.
Hey, everybody, have a couple of slides here that we want to just kind of quickly talk about in regards to cost control and scheduling. Just so you know, on top of all the design meetings that are taking place with KG&D, we are also meeting every week now, what we call an OACM meeting, and owner, architect, construction management meeting, having high-level discussions about the project. In that meeting, we talk about things like budget, we talk about things like schedule. We track them in those meetings to make sure we're staying on tasks. As the design process takes place, there are various stages along the way that we will do estimates to check and see if we are continuously staying within our budget for each phase project moving forward. If it looks like we're tracking a little bit over the budgets, then we kind of step back, readjust, make sure we stay within our budget, because we can only spend the amount of money that your community allowed you to, right? So at schematic design development and contract documents, which is sort of 33%, 66%, 99% of contract development, right? We'll be doing those estimates. And then the third part is obviously monitoring the market. So we use a lot of tools to be able to do that. We use some projects that are bidding now to balance where we are when thinking about what those costs are. And we have a lot of information in our back office. We have 3 full-time estimators in our office that only estimate public school money. So we have a pretty good sense of what things are costing. And then the challenge is just escalation moving forward, right? And trying to evaluate what those things are going to cost in 23 and then in 24 and 25. This is a snippet of what our schedule looks like. By the time we're through, this will be many, many, many pages. It'll break down the design aspect of it, the timeline it'll take to do each one of the projects, and then the construction. This will be in development for a while until we finalize sort of the phasing, what we can do, how we can best figure out the aid within the construction projects. And then what makes sense putting them together so we get our best bang for our buck when we bid it with contractors. So just wanted to kind of show you that these are other things that are happening behind the scenes that are going to be regularly updated at meetings to come.
Yeah, and you know, the budget slide and the schedule slide, I know they're a little tough to read. It's kind of on purpose, right? These are really detailed tools that we have in our arsenal to control the time frame and the budget. And there's a lot of work that goes into develop both these tools. And if you notice on the budget page, we actually, KG&D does a financial analysis side by side with Triton. So one of the most important things to recognize is you're getting 2 sets of eyes on this at all times. So we feel very confident about that process, but there's a lot of background that goes into developing that. So next steps would be the award of the stormwater project, the submission of the roofing replacements to SCD, and then completion of the schematic design phase for the district-wide capital project. So that is going to involve us regrouping with all the stakeholder groups and then coming back with a presentation of the plans and concepts, and we'll get some pretty pictures at that time. And then develop a construction schedule. So we get these things all submitted to SCD and then figure out how we actually do this. And there's a little ways before we're ready to present a construction schedule. That'll be about the time everything goes to SCD in the fall.
So we're going to spend a lot of time here at the school to evaluate the logistics, how we can physically do this work around your educational process, how we can keep your faculty and staff safe over the summer, access points, egresses, all of these things have to be considered when we put these packages together, because you want to make sure you buy that with the contractors. So we're going to work together with KG&D to make sure that we clearly identify these types of issues in the contract documents and specifications. We're gonna put logistical plans together, put them in the documents so the contractors can see it also. And this will all be reviewed by the school district to make sure we're all understanding of what needs to be done in order for us to complete the construction. Okay, so then we go out for the bid process. Like we just did here with the drainage project, we'll go out to the bid process. We'll identify contractors that we would like to see bid on this, encourage them to be involved in your projects. Once the bids are open, we will do scope reviews and analysis to make sure we all feel comfortable that they're able to do your project. And then we'll make recommendations similar to what we're doing here with the building and the groundwork. So fun stuff. We're excited.
Question. How has the rising interest rate environment affected your estimates on the cost escalation?
So the interest rate really affects your funding more than anything else. So when you're going out for your bonds, you're going to see an increase in costs for those things. In terms of the construction, hard to say. There obviously is an impact overall in the total construction costs that everybody's seeing now. But I don't think that the escalation is going to be as bad in 23 as it was in 22. So I'm not saying that we're not going to see 7 to 9% escalation, which is more than doubled the typical year. Back in say 2019, we were seeing maybe 2 3/4 to 3%. I think in 20 and 21, we were seeing about 11 to 12% per year, which, I mean, it's never been like that ever. It's just an anomaly. But this year, I think it's going to be more around 7 to 9%. It does sound like there's going to be an adjustment in the market coming up. I can't tell you that banks are not lending money out like they used to. So I think it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next few months. I do think that we'll see some contractors' costs come down a little bit in the bid.
If we're to follow the logic of the Fed, which is, I'm not a financial expert, but raising interest rates is to curtail the inflationary pressure in the market. If that carries through construction, that will mean we'll see a reduction in the projected escalation. But, you know, on the construction side, may be beneficial, on the borrowing side.
See, I kind of see it as a balance. One goes up, the other goes down.
That's a good question. You know, there are some early indicators, as Kevin said, that the pressure on the construction market will reduce certainly by the end of this year, and maybe even more at the beginning of next year.
But we think that we've planned well for the projects moving forward in the budget that was approved by the voters.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there are good contingencies built in.
Yes.
Yes, there was.
I wanted to make sure that it's recent estimates are still within the budget parameters we established back.
So we haven't done the cost estimates on the bulk of the project yet, but certainly the projections on the escalation are within the contingencies that were built into the project. Certainly, there's a balance of how much we could put in contingency there, what's reasonable.
Yeah.
And we're well within that bandwidth right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So it's great to see everybody
Thank you so
again.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Welcome, Kevin, for coming in to meet with us.
Very welcome.
And,
See you soon.
we look forward to seeing you soon. with
Great night.
some,
Thank you.
designs.
Thank you.
All right, so before we move into our next work session topic, which is our budget overview with Ms. Harrington Cohen, we will open it up to public comment. We wanted to ensure that we had a period for public comment for people to speak on the budget if they so wish. So if you would like to speak, you can come up to the podium. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. All right. Well, if we do not have any public comment, I will then turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Ms. Harrington Cohen.
Thank you, Greg. So this evening we'll be reviewing the balance of our administrative and fixed costs budgets and also going over our proposition for this evening. I think it's working. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. Was that me or you?
That was here.
Okay. So this is just an overview of our budget events thus far. This is our sixth meeting on the budget, and we have our follow-up, the superintendent's proposed budget adoption, which is at our April 13th meeting. Tonight's discussion will discuss district office staffing, our administrative and fixed cost budgets. We'll review our vehicle replacement needs. And I've asked Joe Bernardi, our transportation supervisor, to join us. And then we'll recommend a proposition to the board. I would like to pass it to our superintendent, Walker, to discuss the district office staffing.
Thank you, Denise. Just wanted to make a couple of notes for the board and the public related to staffing in the district office, because there will be impacts on various budget lines, as you'll see shared by Denise during the remainder of the evening. The first is, as we know, regrettably and unfortunately and terribly, Tracy Borges has made the decision to retire for reasons that are still not clear to me. But when that happens, certainly in any position, but particularly in a unique position like Tracy's, like that of the district clerk, it's an imperative for us to look at ways we can replace that position in the most efficient way possible. And so in looking at the way that district clerk work is done in the vast majority in other systems, both of our size and of larger sizes, that work typically gets done in combination with another district office or another clerical assignment, or done through a stipend. And so it's our best thinking at this point and our recommendation through the budget process that Tracy's work as district clerk be replaced on a stipended basis beginning for the upcoming school year. And so you'll see that reflected in the budget codes that Denise is going to share with you shortly. Additionally, and also Jackie Myers made the same terrible and regrettable decision to retire. Really, we congratulate both of them, but again, same imperative to think about how that work and that person's value gets best replaced within the system. That's a position that we do recommend replacing with kind of an in-kind or same level civil service position to continue to provide support to all of the work of the assistant superintendent, both from the human resources standpoint, the curriculum and instruction standpoint. And we plan to add for the first time central registration responsibilities to that role. So that will be a shift and new work for both district office, for the system, and for this person. So we look forward to sharing more thoughts about that concept with the board in the meetings to come. Additionally, we have currently a vacant bookkeeper position that we're thinking, and Denise could certainly provide more detail at some point. We think that we can downgrade within the civil service structure, still make sure that we get the business function taken care of to the same high level that we know it needs to be, and provide some efficiency there. And finally, what we're thinking about and recommending is an assistant business manager position within the district office. This would be a new position, and the thinking around this is really multifaceted, but and probably of all of equal importance. But they include the fact that Denise's role within our system and within most systems is really the one leadership position that if Denise were to leave the system tomorrow, we have no succession or backup plan for her and what she knows and the value and the leadership that she brings to the system. There's no one else within the system who can replace that work, who has that knowledge, and there's no structure in place within our system that would allow for mentorship, for potential leadership, for growth of somebody within the system into the role that Denise has. So as exceptionally skilled as she is, it's one of the things that keeps me up in the middle of the night is if Denise were to win the lottery tomorrow and retire, we'd be looking at someone who would be brand new to all of us and entrusting them with a $56 million budget. You know, there isn't sustainability in that kind of model. And I think that's an issue that all districts face, particularly in a time when really high quality business leaders are an incredible rarity. So there's that consideration. There's also the consideration that we have in Denise and the assistant superintendent, someone who's a really high level leader in the system, but whose workload on a day-to-day basis isn't always at that level of opportunity because she is forced within the structure to do lower level financial work and to answer almost literally every financial related question within the system, including from administrative colleagues, because there is no intermediate step within the system before you get to the needs. So what we're trying to do is to design something that will allow for succession planning, allow for someone to gain knowledge, to gain mentorship, and to step into an increased level leadership within the business office, and to free Denise up to provide the kind of visionary leadership that we know she's capable of providing and that the system benefits from an assistant superintendent. So to me, this is an incredibly important short and long-term value added to the system, and you'll see that reflected in the budget as well. That's all for me for now. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you. I'm just going to give you a moment just to kind of assimilate yourself to this screen. So this is a summary. This is a summary of different budget components that we'll be discussing this evening. We have the proposed budget 23-24, the adopted budget for 22-23, and then the differential on the side. I will note that when it comes to salaries based on the budget components that we're addressing today, because the salaries of those individuals are non-bargaining, that most of the salaries reflected here represent actually 21-22 salary. Because remember, the budget is about 18 months ahead of things. So when the budget was adopted in 22-23, many of those individual contracts had not yet been negotiated and or settled. So there you'll see some disparity in the salary lines potentially. So first we have our Board of Education. We have contractual and other, which represents professional conferences, travel, board services, etc. That's up. Oh, did I say contractual? No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's up slightly. Then we have supplies and materials and BOCES services. So BOCES services reflects professional learning, policy review updates, our election management system, and our board doc software as well. And then we have district clerk, who is responsible for attending, of course, all of the board meetings, FOIL requests, and other district official information with regard to voting, etc. So we have salaries there. As you see, the differential there is significant, but I will also say that we actually had some reclassification. So our election inspectors were not recorded to this salary code previously, so we have added them in to the salaries for 23-24. And in addition to that, we have a stipend for our volunteer coordinator who handles our senior citizens and the coordination of different activities throughout the district. So that has been added to the 23-24 salary line. Then we have contractual and other, and these are costs associated with trustee elections, our annual budget, public notices, voting machines, etc. And then we have our supplies budget. And please stop me if you have any questions. Here we have the chief school administrator, that is the superintendent's office and his staff. We have contractual and others. We have actually some weather services which are in there.
Worth every penny.
That's right, that's right. Conferences, professional learning, subscriptions, memberships, etc., and general office supplies. Next, we have business administration, responsible for the management and supervision of all the district's finances, including payroll, purchasing, benefits, insurance coordination, etc. And then also the oversight of transportation, food service, buildings and grounds, and security. There we have represented in 22-23 is 5 business staff members And as Superintendent Walker indicated in his earlier discussion, we have accounted for one additional individual for the 23-24 school year. Contractual, so this year, next year, we're implementing Ed Data Services, which is a cooperative, low bidding, procurement-based, web-based program that we're working with our teachers, our CTA, and our school secretaries. So it's a cooperative program that allows access to bid pricing, so we can get a lot more value for our dollar and also streamline the procurement and ordering process for our team. So that is the relative increase in that line. Then we have BOCE services. So this is for state aid planning analysis. It represents a component of our financial management system, Forecast 5 fiscal planning, and then other workshops. You'll also see there's a slight decrease in this line because we had some services, some special ed services that were being accounted for in this code that we've since transferred over to special ed. Next, we have auditing. So this represents both our two auditing firms, our internal and our external auditing firm. They perform our financial audit, our single audit, our risk assessment audit, and then also our internal audit. And then we also have our claims auditor who is with us twice a month to audit all of our claims. Fiscal agent fees, that represents costs associated with our bond anticipation notes, other debt instruments, analyzing our financial data and requirements, looking at our funding policies, federal tax implications, et cetera. There are fiscal advisors in essence, and we're reflecting a slight decrease in that area, as well as legal, which accounts for our attorney's fees for litigation, personnel services, negotiations, bond counsel, etc. Fun stuff, right? Then we have
I'm enjoying.
I know. Then we have personnel. So this represents our personnel coordinator who handles the coordination of lane advancement, GASB reporting, health insurance, workers' comp, our student accident insurance, civil service processing, etc. The contracted services portion is our personnel management software, subscriptions, and memberships. We have a slight decrease in there because we are removing some software that was previously needed, that is no longer needed, as well as some subscriptions. Supplies decrease. We're fortunately using less and less supplies, which is a wonderful thing. Then BOCE services. So this accounts for our employee assistance program, employee benefits coordination with the health consortium and our workers' comp consortium, labor negotiations, evaluation software, certification reviews, and also affordable care compliance. Then we have records management. So this accounts for the records retention requirement that we have as a public school district. This is a stipended position responsible for retention and disposal of our legal documents as required under the LGS1, which is the records management schedule. BOCE services. So you'll see we have a slight reduction there. The eDoc system that archives and generates, it takes our microfiche and digitizes it, and all of our documents as well. So we're seeing a slight decrease in that. Public information services. So this is our technical support specialist who assists with website coordination, e-learning development, and other very broad and very essential technical supports. This contractual accounts for our calendar and our annual mailings, which we were mailing out our newsletter 4 times a year. We've since decreased that. So that shows a reduction there. Also, we've moved Parent Link and Free Play Media, which was a service that was covered under contractual. We've moved that over to BOCES. So you'll see that down there. And then as far as BOCES, this accounts for Parent Square, which is the old K-12. Alerts, site improved Blackboard, social media publicity, website and graphic development, captioning services for hearing impaired, and other web-related ADA services. Next, we have employee benefits. It's a big chunk of our budget. As a public employer, the district has a responsibility to pay an employer contribution rate to all of our staff members. So we have the employee retirement system, and then we have the teachers' retirement system. In addition to that, we have Social Security payments. So the district pays 7.65% into Social Security for all of our employees. ERS will increase from 11.6% last year to 13.1%. And then TRS is decreasing from 10.9 to 9.76%. So based on our salaries, our salaries on an annual basis are approximately $26 million. We pay a percentage of that to each of the pension systems and to Social Security, and that represents that in those first 3 lines. Then we have our workers' compensation consortium. So the fund performance has been very strong with the consortium, so we're looking at a slight decrease there. Unemployment and life and disability insurance is holding stable, unchanged. And we have medical, dental, and hospitalization. So we are looking at about a 5.5% increase in that. It's a component of our Putnam Northern Westchester Health Consortium. So we're seeing some increases there, and that dollar figure, the 4.599, represents health for our existing employees and our retirees as well. And lastly, we have the benefit trust fund and other benefits. So the CTA, the teachers, the Croton Teachers Association has a benefit trust fund that covers faculty for vision and dental, and that component is there, where the other dental represents our CSEA primarily. I knew you had a question.
On the health plan,
Yeah.
it's not NISHA, but
No, we are part of Putnam Northern Westchester's consortium through Aetna.
better rates.
Better rates. Our rates went up last year, and they went up 5.5 this year. They were supposed to go to about 7%.
Yeah.
But we offset a rate increase with some modifications
Plan
to the
design
plan.
changes.
Yeah. So, but it is I sit on the board for the consortium, and it is a very well-run plan with a conservative board, in light of the current state of affairs. I think that conservative is the wise approach, especially with healthcare.
Is the distinction between hospital and medical, is that just inpatient, outpatient? Like,
No,
what is
that's
the-
an outdated accounting term. So we have to file a number of reports, ST3, transparency, et cetera, and they have coding and language that is
Okay,
very old, and that's just a component of that.
got it.
And I even made some changes here because there was some language that Steve was like, what?
I don't know what that
is-
is. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, only if you're an 85-year-old accountant. Next, we have our debt service. So this represents principal and interest on all of our obligations, our EPC, our bonds, our bus bands, and our capital project bands. So that we're looking at approximately a 4% increase. I will say that the projections there for the bond anticipation notes are projections based on the current construction schedule with added contingency. The likelihood of us borrowing to this capacity is low. However, with interest rates, the Fed just hiked the rate again. So we feel that this is a safe number to go forward with. Then we have interfund transfers. So interfund transfers are used to essentially cover the gap between certain programs. So we have our special aid fund, which is our extended school year program for our special education population. That is not fully funded through the state. And then we also have a $30,000 interfund transfer for our school lunch fund to offset some deficits in that fund.
And will that $30,000 interfund transfer balance that lunch?
That is our hope. But again, things will change. If the universal meals is enacted, then it could impact that.
Okay.
Also, we are bidding out the food service management contract this year.
Right.
So this is our final year. We're preparing the documents now. Depending upon the bidder responses, that may not be enough.
Okay.
It might be enough.
But it seems that that's a move in the right direction. Sort of
Yes.
how we've been progressing in the right direction.
Correct. As far as, yes, the debt owed by
Okay.
the district.
Did the RFP go out?
No, we are waiting. We have to wait for child nutrition services at the state education department. And they have some really rigid guidelines that we need to adhere to. So right now, based on last year's contract, we're compiling all of the necessary financial data and dietary needs.
Yeah, is there an opportunity to put language in the RFP that talks about high margin items that are not as sugary as they currently exist?
Well, the National School Lunch Program is very rigid. The guidelines within the National School Lunch Program limit salt, sugar, fat, all the good stuff.
Yeah, I understand. Taste.
But yeah, you're talking about the a la carte items
Yes.
versus the.
Oh, a la
So
carte.
I imagine we both have
Every
frequent
parent
users of those.
probably has the same. issue.
So we do try to, Kyra, who is our food service director, who came to the district this year and is fabulous and
That's
has
wonderful,
3
yes,
children
yeah.
herself and is really focused on keeping fat and salt down, but quality and taste up. So we do have flexibility with a la carte. So I would encourage you to share what you would like more of.
Oh, I'm no expert in that field. All I'm saying is, I think there's an abundance of sugary options that
Yeah.
I think all parents would support.
Right,
Changing that up a little.
right. Noted.
I have a question about this slide. I understand the interfund transfer that has the code SA next to it,
Yeah,
for the special aid fund.
yeah.
The second one,
I
the school
know, it
lunch
says
fund, it says
cap.
cap, is
Yeah,
that, should
it's-
that be,
no.
yes, should
No,
that be
it's school
something
lunch
else?
fund. It's
I was gonna
school
say, I
lunch
didn't
fund.
think that was capital.
Nice catch there, Joss. Yeah, I apologize for that. I apologize for that. Our slide auditor here. Yes, no, that's school lunch fund, that would should be SLF. Okay. That,
It is the right number though.
it is the right number, yes. We do not have any interfund transfers to capital.
Okay.
So next, we will, first of all, any questions other than those that have already been raised? Okay. So this represents the vehicle replacement summary that was presented to the board last year. Today, I'm going to add a little X there. So in 2022, we had intended to purchase a 20-passenger vehicle. Due to supply chain issues, vehicle availability, et cetera, we did not purchase that vehicle. Fortunately, with Joe's coordination and routing software, we were able to do without that vehicle. So for the 22-23 school year, we just purchased our 66-passenger EV. 23-24, we are proposing the 66-passenger that was listed in our schedule last year, 20 to 30-passenger vehicle, and 1 7-passenger vehicle, which I'll talk more about in the next slides, but I just wanted to reflect on the schedule from last year. So I'm just going to change these numbers here. So we are still looking at, over the 5-year period, 13 vehicles, but we've shifted our needs a little bit, and I'll talk about them in a moment. So based on Joe's team at transportation and our existing enrollment and so forth, Joe has come to us with some recommendations for this year, and we're going to be recommending the removal of a 66-passenger ICE, internal combustion engine school bus. It's 17 years old with about 86,000 miles, and we are recommending a replacement to 1 66-passenger EV with at a value of $446,000 and a $25,000 contingency for charging and infrastructure. The funding source for that would be the Capital Reserve Fund that we established last year, the Transportation Capital Reserve Fund. We are also recommending, we have a bus number 122. It's a 28-passenger ICE vehicle with 124,000 miles, 16 years old, to be replaced by 1 30-passenger, also internal combustion engine, valued at $98,900, and that would be funded through current year appropriations. Lastly, 1 28-passenger, 14-year-old vehicle with 114,000 miles to be replaced by, as I shared it earlier in the slide, 1 7-passenger all-wheel drive hybrid, valued at $75,900. That would also be funded through current year appropriations. So in looking at the fleet, Joe shared the need. We have about 11 runs with less than 5 students that are either out of district runs or special education runs within the district. The need for a vehicle larger than 7 is really unnecessary. Also, all of our smaller passenger vehicles are front-wheel drive. It would really behoove the district to have an all-wheel drive 7-passenger vehicle to navigate the snow. It's versatile in that it can go on the highways, it can be used locally. So that is his recommendation there. We are also recommending 2 low-speed utility vehicles, electric. So these vehicles are also known as golf carts. So we use those throughout the district for grounds maintenance, managing events. Our trainer uses them to transport students. We use them to bring parents down to the field, or if someone is disabled. Those carts are used heavily, especially during the sports season and around graduation, et cetera. Also, we have a big campus. So when our maintenance mechanics and or our grounds people need to get to another part of the field, rather than spending 25 minutes walking down and walking back, they can hop in a cart, weed whack, mow, et cetera. So those are 2 low-speed utility vehicles, both electric, to be funded through current year appropriations.
And those are new, not replacing.
Those are new. Well, we have a Gator, which was donated to the district that is beyond its useful life at this point. So it would be replacing that
And then adding an
and then
additional.
adding another. Yeah.
I would suggest actually updating the slide to indicate that it is replacing that gator. Just because we got it for free doesn't mean that it isn't an asset to the district.
Yeah, I don't think that we are discarding it or retiring it. I think that we are just not utilizing it to the capacity that we have.
So we would not
We'll
be
use it for
scrapping.
other purposes.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions
Sure.
here. The first question I have is about the 7-passenger all-wheel drive vehicle. Are there any all-electric alternatives to the hybrid that would work for that?
It is all electric. It's
No, the hybrid.
a plug-in hybrid.
Okay, that's a very
So a
big
plug-in
difference.
hybrid,
Yes.
yeah, that
We
is,
should
we
call
should
that out on this
specify that on
slide.
this slide.
That is a significant difference.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
That is a
Yeah.
significant difference. Okay,
I will
that
make
should definitely be
adjustment,
updated.
Greg, and you will remind me to make that adjustment before we add it to the website.
Yes,
I think I do, might have it on the next
all
slide.
right. So the 30-passenger internal combustion, are we still in the situation where I know that there's not been action on the request about changing rules on the parkways. But has there been any shift in terms of the availability of vehicles that are electric and that meet that need?
So our biggest challenge is not the vehicle, it's capacity, which is the bigger issue here. If I could just
Charging
advance to the charging capacity at the transportation, if I could just go to the next slide, we
Okay.
can hop right back.
Okay,
So with this proposal and not including the two smaller utility vehicles, we are looking at 3 66-passenger buses, because we already have EV. We are scheduled to get our second in a couple of months.
The next couple of months.
And then we're proposing a third. So we will have 3 66-passenger vehicles. We will have 1 7-passenger plug-in hybrid that we're proposing. And then we also have the 4-passenger plug-in Prius, which already exists. Those are 5 vehicles housed at transportation, needed to be housed at transportation to ensure that Joe
great.
and his team can see those drivers before they go out with our students. We have 2 level 2 chargers. And I'll do my best to make this as simple as possible, but we have about 200 amps at the transportation garage, right? Those level 2 chargers are 80 amps apiece. So that's 160. That leaves 40 amps to run the entire transportation department. That is insufficient. What we've done is we reduced the ampage for both of those chargers. We brought it down from 80 to 60 so that we freed up 20 additional amps for transportation. What that in fact does is it slows down an already slow charging process.
Yeah.
So, but we are, in my opinion, and in the opinion of our electrical engineers, this is pushing us right to the limit right here with these 5 vehicles.
Got it. And there's no further news from Con Ed on timing for increasing the capacity of our feed?
So we submitted a load letter about, it was summer of 2022. We have since had communication back from Con Edison asking more questions about our needs and capacity, buses, chargers, et cetera. It's very, very complex. And we have been responding to those needs, but it is still a very slow process. We are not sure at this point whether the power that we need is 30 feet away or 3 miles away. We do know that we will need a transformer, most likely to to advance in any way our capacity. But I will say that we met with our political leaders just yesterday. I met with Neil Haber, we met with Assemblywoman Levenberg's office, and we shared our challenges, and she, she is aware that we are a leader in the region as far as electrification, and she wants to help us in any way that she can. She has already submitted a letter to Con Ed on our behalf to try to expedite this process, which is amazing. We met with them yesterday. So, so I am hopeful. We are hopeful. I think that this is the best decision for the district from a financial perspective, from an operational perspective. Remember, we have all of our own drivers and mechanics. To go from one electric vehicle to now 5 electric vehicles there's going to be a learning curve and an adjustment and so forth. So I think that this is a very safe projection for us. And then we just have some mitigating actions that I included here, awaiting a response from Con Edison. This was before we received a letter from Assemblywoman Levenberg, and also Senator Harcum has been an advocate for us as well. And then we also have the implementation of our future facilities capital project, which addresses some of the needs that we have at transportation.
So, yeah, I understand the difficulty here. One thing that I would say that is interesting is that just for the public to understand, the electrical feed to our transportation facility does not come from the village of Croton. It actually comes up over Mount Airy and back down 129. And that's part of the difficulty here.
The village recently had 4 chargers installed at DPW, which is right next to transportation. And we are, pursuing with them the opportunity to possibly share the charging capacity. Hopefully hopefully there will be ample electricity available for us. And Con Edison will move quickly on this.
With the 4 chargers, does that mean that they have greater than 200 amps going to the DPW
I
facility?
don't know the specifics of it, if they're level 2 or level 3. Remember,
Right.
level 2 are the slow chargers, level 3 are the fast chargers. And if you see on the slide, I have level 2 and level 3 on the second circle on the right. We are meeting with the charging company that has actually a converter that can convert a level 2 to a level 3, because we may be forced for the third EV 66 passenger to go with a level 3. Like they're kind of phasing out level 2s on those big buses. So if that is the case, we need to accommodate that.
There is actually let's talk offline. I have some additional intelligence about this.
Great.
Just from driving around and looking at the wires.
Oh. Do tell, okay. So, based on that, the proposition recommendation is, one proposition authorizing the purchase of 166 passenger electric school bus estimated at approximately 446,000 plus an additional 25 for infrastructure and charging. That is to be funded from our trustee vehicle capital reserve.
Are there any grants or anything?
We will be pursuing grants. The likelihood, we're on a DEER grant right now, and we will be pursuing the NYSERDA grant as well. But the NYSERDA grant with limited funding and the fact that we've already received $120,000 for our last vehicle. And we are not a low income, high poverty district. which is the driving force. Majority of those funds are targeted towards needier communities.
And the EPA grants, we were not in the group that was awarded in that first tranche of EPA grants either.
Correct. 120 to 30 passenger, and we are fairly certain that it's going to be a 30 passenger. But again, with these propositions, we need to be as clear as we can with the community. So it needs to be broad enough that if a certain vehicle is not available, that we have some flexibility, especially now with supply chain issues still being an issue. Then 1 7-passenger hybrid SUV. I will change that slide to include plug-in hybrid SUV at an estimated cost of $75,900 to be funded from current appropriations. And then lastly, 2 low-speed electric utility vehicles at a maximum cost of $38,000 to also be funded from current year appropriations. If approved, no borrowing would be required and there would be no tax impact to any of these purchases. Previously, we would do a 5-year ban for our bus purchases. And there would be, of course, the financing associated with that. Because it's being taken out of reserves and current year funds, there will be no tax impact, which is wonderful.
Do we actually need a proposition for the items that are out of current appropriations?
We do. It's a legal requirement for that. So this will be one proposition.
So we cannot purchase any transportation vehicles without a proposition?
No, because it has to be a transfer of capital. So in order to do that, we need voter approval if it's after.
We're transferring it.
Vote. Any bus purchases are purchased out of capital. So it's either, that CAP that you saw on the lunch fund.
That's good.
Exactly.
So.
Do you have a question, Omar? Any other questions? Follow up?
Okay. Some upcoming dates. So April 13th, we have the superintendent's budget adoption, followed by the public budget hearing on May 4th. And May 16th, don't forget to vote. Budget and trustee elections at CHHS from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then, of course, don't forget to visit our website if you have any questions, budget.questions@trustee.org. There's some of our social media and our website. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Denise, and thank you for joining us as well, Joe. In case you had any further clarification questions.
Fresh tomorrow.
Yes, I was gonna say, yes, if you wanted to take the opportunity to head home, we'll pause for a moment before we continue our new business.
So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Then we will move into new business next, and recommended action that the Board of Education approves the request for proposal RFP bid award for geotechnical subsurface investigative services for the $45.5 million capital improvement project to Tectonic Engineering Consultants, geologists, and land surveyors DPC as presented.
Second.
On the question?
On the question. The difference in bid responses is
Huge.
huge. Did they both understand the assignment?
Yeah, we believe so. They have both been vetted by Triton. We did see that, and there was some concern generally if there's a large variance. I can't speak to exactly what it was, but they've both been vetted.
Right, looked it through and they, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action that the Board of Education accepts the non-instructional personnel leave of absence of Taylor Rossi, teacher aide, effective February 28, 2023, for approximately 8 weeks.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? It was Theo. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries. All right, we'll now move into instructional personnel. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Croton Harmon Board of Education hereby appoints Taylor Rossi, 1.0 FTE elementary teacher, as a leave replacement for Don Giordano at the Pierre Van Cortlandt Middle School, effective February 28, 2023, through a date to be determined at an annual salary of $65,261, MA Step 1 prorated.
So moved.
Second. On the question? All in favor? Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. All right, we'll now move into donations. Recommended action that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a grant from the Croton Harmon Education Foundation, CHEF, in the amount of $12,750 to purchase one class set of iPads, a photo booth, and a Cricut Maker 3 bundle at the Croton Harmon High School. These items will help develop programs beyond student-owned smartphones, tablets, and digital cameras.
So moved.
Second. On the question?
What's a Cricut maker?
Cricut, sorry. It's like a little die cutting type thing, right?
Computerized cutout or letters. Cricut maker, got it. Sounds fancy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action, the Board of Education gratefully accepts a grant from the Croton Harmon Education Foundation, CHEF, in the amount of $2,000 to purchase for the purchase of books to extend the current alternate special education classroom library at the Croton Harmon High School.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation in the amount of $4,000 by the Croton Harmon Booster Club, care of Sue DeLasho, as a contribution to the Croton Harmon Booster Club scholarships for high school scholar athletes and for students who have demonstrated consistency in sportsmanship and dedication to school or teams. It's 2 awards of $1,000 each for scholar athletes, 4 awards at $500 each for students who have demonstrated consistency in sportsmanship, dedication to school or teams.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation in the amount of $15,000 as a contribution to the John P. Colley Memorial Lacrosse Scholarship at the Croton Harmon High School. $500 each is given to 2 students per year for strong athletic leadership in lacrosse, strong academic skills, and community service.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
So am I correct to understand that this is a $15,000 donation, but only 2 $500 scholarships will be given each year, and that is intended to be a multi-year
Correct.
program?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. I would like to again take a moment to thank all of our very, very generous donors for considering our students, and particularly we're getting toward this time of year, we're looking at scholarships for our students. So thank you so much. And now we will move into the consent agenda. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves all items under the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. On the question? All in favor? Aye. Josh, did you still need a minute?
It will be there in just a moment. Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. That takes us to the closing of the meeting and recommended action that the Board of Education adjourns this meeting at 8:59 PM.
So. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone who's tuning in online or will be watching this recording later. Have a wonderful evening. We good?
Yeah, well done, guys.
Thank
Great job. Fantastic job.